Today's screencast, we have three things we're going to discuss. Number one, what the strategy was at Saratoga from the British, what the results were, and then, like always, what were the effects? What was the impact? So up first here, the British dude by the name of gentleman Johnny Burgoyne, he was sort of like one of the big dog leaders of the British, and he had this plan. You can see over here on this map that I drew. He was going to bring in people from the north, from the east, and from the west here, and all converge in this spot right here in New York, and to defeat the colonists. Now, the problem is they didn't know really where they were going or what they were doing, and they didn't realize that their path that all these different three groups were going to meet and converge on was through hills and mountains, bodies of water, through actual forests, and it was going to be really difficult to get where they needed to get to. So that was the problem. The bigger problem is a lot of the continental troops, or just like random people, knew that the British were going to be using these paths, and they ruined them. They put trees down in them, they dug them up, they flooded them. I mean, we're talking like that's the true definition of guerrilla warfare. When you walk out of your farm and see a path and put a tree branch over it or flood it or whatever, I mean, we're talking serious guerrilla warfare, baby. And then the biggest problem is two of the three British forces never even got there. And so then when the colonists were there waiting for what they thought was going to be three different groups, the colonists easily defeated the British forces here. So we know what their plan was. We know what the results were. Now we look at the effects. And here, there's four things that we need to make sure that we understand. Number one, victory at Trenton, Princeton, and now Saratoga. 3 is a streak. I checked, and 3 victories in a row is a streak. Maybe the old Woodbury football guys, we got the Park High Wolfpack, got them down. We take the Stillwater Ponies Friday, one more, and it's a streak, just like the colonists here. They're feeling good about this. They're thinking that they can win. The second thing that happened is, which was huge, big, like underline it, flashing red lights, okay, neon lights. France joined the American side and declared war on Britain, and this was a huge deal, like major, mega deal. Getting a country the size of France to jump in and help was a big deal for the Americans. Why was France not in? Well, no one wants to join a losing side. It's not a coincidence that they joined after the colonists won the 3rd victory in a row. They certainly weren't going to join before Trenton. But once they felt like they could actually help, and here's what I would write next to this, okay, against number 2 here. Write down that the French had a navy that could compete with the British Navy, and the Americans didn't. The Americans were okay on land, but they needed the French help on water, which would be the Navy. So if you didn't write that down, then pause it and rewind it or whatever and write this down. Number 3, Spain didn't really have anything to contribute in terms of like dudes or military help, but they gave us a bunch of supplies and goods, and that was a big help too. And then the 4th thing is kind of a common sense, you know, we'll call this the duh statement, but this was a way super big morale booster for the colonists. Not just because they started to think that they could win, but when the French helped and the Spanish helped and they realized that they weren't fighting alone, this made enlistments, re-enlistments were common, and then a lot more people were joining the military. It's just like when you start winning, everybody wants to be a part of it, and that's what happened here. So when you get to class tomorrow, here's what I'm going to ask you. I'm going to say, what was the British plan at Saratoga? And then I'm going to say, question 2, what happened? Okay, how did the Americans win? And you would maybe want to say something about like how the British didn't get there, and they had a lot of trouble on the way, and the reasons why maybe. And then the third question I'm going to ask you is, what were the effects of the victory at Saratoga? And they're right here on the screen for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, figure it out. So that's what the quiz is going to be on tomorrow. If you have that, you're golden. You can add this to your notes, or you can add it to the learning targets, and you are going to be all set. Have a good night, and we will see you tomorrow.